Good afternoon, everyone. Well, this is being recorded this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back to another math video for today. So, last week we learned about patterns, specifically number and shape patterns. So I wanted to talk about every pattern that we have, from anything from colors to shapes or numbers in math. We'll notice a lot of patterns, and patterns have to follow a rule. So rules can be anything as simple as add 2 could be a rule, or subtract 3, or even multiply by 7. Now, a rule for that can be for a number pattern rule. So I'm going to start with an example here. Let's use a rule that requires addition. Okay, so we are going to start with the number, let's go 6, and the rule is to add 3. So to create a pattern that way is we, start with 6, and for each one we have to make sure that we are adding 3. So the next number, if we add 3, so if I have 6, I'm just going to add 3 more to the next number. And that means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the next number in my pattern is 9, and I'm going to keep following that rule. So it's good to know that even though it said start with 6, yes, you continue on from the last number when you are continuing the pattern. So there we went 6 plus 3 is 9. So we're going to keep on going. Let's see what happens if I do 9 dots again. I have to add 3 more. If I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Go to 12. And I'm going to find the next 4 numbers. So I have 12 now, so I'm going to keep following that rule, add 3. Start with, since 12 was my last number, I continue from 12, and I go 12, 13, 14, 15. And I'm going to do it one more time. So now that I'm continuing from 15, all right, 15. Oops, did I, 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, that's 15, 16, 17, 18, right? So I'm going to keep going. I can continue this pattern forever and keep adding 3, adding 3, adding 3, but I think I'm going to stop there because I'm starting with 6, I see that, and keep adding 3. So I'm following my rule correctly, so this is a job well done here. So, I mean, it's a little bit simpler, right? Adding, we just keep going up and up and up based on the number we add. So remember, start with 6, add 3 each time. Now, there's another one we can do. Sometimes there are multiplication versions. So the rule might be start with, let's go with 10 and multiply by 2 to find the next, and sometimes when you do a number pattern, it might go the next 4 numbers. Okay, so I got to be careful with my sequencing here. So it says start with 10. I'm going to follow that exact rule. Check, done. So I like to annotate. See, I circle my numbers like I do in class, and I started with 10, so I'm going to make sure I check that off. And the rule says multiply by 2 to find the next 4 numbers. So this is my rule. So each time I'm multiplying by 2. Now, we also learned that multiplying by 2 can also be the word to double, right? So when you double, it's just you take your number and multiply by 2. Now, some of us know our multiplication facts very well, and we know that 10 times 2 is going to be 20. If you're not as sharp with a multiplication fact, that is okay, because doubling can also mean to add the same number twice. So I'll just put that same number twice, right? Because not only does 10 times 2 work, but if you double, you can just repeat 10 twice by adding it. Also gets you 20. So I'm going to keep going. I have to find the next 4 numbers. So there's my first number after that. I sometimes like to mark the positioning of my pattern so that I know what comes after that. So after my 10, my first number after 10 would be 20. I'm going to keep on doubling. So now that I had my 10 times 20, I'm going to do my 20 times 20. And a fun little trick you can do here when you multiply by your place value, since 20 is 2 tens, right? When you multiply by a 10 or 100, things like that, one thing you could do is actually take the 0 from the end, because all 10s end with 1 0, and just use your multiplication fact 2 times 2, and that gets you 40. Or, if you're not as savvy, that's okay. You can just take that 20 and continue the pattern. 20 plus 20 equals 40. So there's my third number. I need to find the second number after 10. And then I have to keep going. My third number after that is going to be 40 times 2, or 40 plus 40. So once again, I can just take that 0, since it's a 10, and place it in the ones place, and think 4 times 2. I know 4 times 2 is 8. Or 40 plus 40 is 80, so that's going to be my third number. And then my last number in the pattern, since I have to find the next 4 numbers, has to be double 80. 80 times 2, so I'm going to take that. 80 times 2 equals 16, or 8 times 2, I'm sorry, is 160, because I know I can just place that 0. That gets me a 0 right there. And 8 times 2 will be 16, so I'm going to put my 16 there. To make 160. So basically you're doubling the 80. So if you do repeated addition, 80 plus 80 is 160 as my final number. So to show the pattern, the number pattern, since it's start with 10 and double or multiply it by 2, it goes from 10 to 20 to 40 to 80 to 60. 160, I should say. So it keeps on doubling. One mistake we do not want to make is if it says double or multiply by 2. I see a mistake often where sometimes we accidentally do an addition, right? So this is I'll have the correct way up. And sometimes if I see the rule like multiply by 2, a common mistake I see is some people take 10 and they just keep adding 2. So we want to make sure that we are looking at those math words very carefully in where it says the rule. So the rule is to multiply by 2. So if we do keep adding 2, that is not multiplying, because that is not doubling. That is just counting by 2s or skip counting by 2s. And we'll end up with numbers that are way off, right? See, just that simple mistake can lead to something very big. So this is a good non-example here. This is a great example. So doubling or multiplying by 2 does not mean we add by 2. I also want to make sure that we are being consistent with our rule following, right? Sometimes I see a mistake I see too is we start doubling 10, 20, 40, and some of us kind of halfway through say, you know what, I'll just start adding it and say 42, 44, right? That's not staying consistent. The pattern has to follow the rule the entire way. So this is not that's a no-no. All right, hopefully that makes a little more sense here. So number patterns, they can start off with one number and use the same operation to continue a pattern and build off each number. So we can do one more number pattern to kind of finish this one off. We're going to start with let's go with the number 34, and our rule is we subtract 7. So we're alright, so I'm going to find the first 5 numbers in this pattern. So when I start with 34, oh, that's not going to be a good example. I apologize. Bad example by me. I'll start with 35. I realized I made the mistake That was not what the problem I wanted. I'm going to go with 7. So 35, and we're going to still subtract 7. I apologize for the quick mistake. Sorry, I'm not the best video editor, so I would typically edit that, but I'm still working on my YouTube game, so stay with me. So 35, we're going to subtract 7 each time. So if some students like to do the math here, and that is perfectly fine if you do your math on the bottom. Just remember, when you're writing a number pattern, you should have the numbers in a row separated by a comma. That way I can see, all right, what number's coming after which one in the pattern. So 35 minus 7. Let's do some regrouping since we've gotten so much better on our subtracting skills this year. We're going to borrow 1 from the 10, and then we're going to give 10 of those 1s to the 5. So if we give 10 to a 5, that makes it 15. 15 minus 7, sometimes, like, oh, that's a tricky one. I'm just going to draw 15 dots. And take away 7. And if I count my leftovers, I have a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I have 2 minus nothing, so I have 28 left. 28 minus 7, no need to regroup there. I know 8 minus 7 is 1. That's 21. 21 minus 7, well that, one's more than the minuend is larger than the subtrahend. That means the big number on top. In the place value, 1 is more than 7, so I have to take away and get, I'll take this, turn it to a 1, give 10 more to 1. That's 11 minus 7 is 14. And 14 minus 7 gets me 7. And there we are. So those are my first 5 numbers. Of course, if I continue the pattern, 7 minus 7 will get me all the way to 0. So there are some examples of number patterns. They have to be in a sequential order, so you have to start with a certain number and continue the rule and be consistent with the rule, right? So every time you have to subtract 7. If I subtract 6 or 5, or, that's not staying consistent with the rule. So we want to always stay consistent with our rule. So I did title this number and shape patterns. We're actually going to do more review with shape patterns next week. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I hope this was, once again, another helpful video. Please stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.